Hands up right now!
This goes beyond just a murder. Beyond everything I believe.
What's going on out there, everybody? This is Samuel Leggy here representing TeamJVS. As you can see, tick, tick, boom. This is Andrew Garfield's television, well, I don't say his television debut, but this is one of his biggest television features, and that is Under the Banner of Heaven. So Andrew Garfield's character plays a detective. Him and his cohort, played by Billy Birmingham. Billy Birmingham's character's name is Bill, and Andrew Garfield's character's name is Pyrie. And there is a murder that happens very early on, and it is the murder of Brenda Lafferty, played by Daisy Edgar-Jones. And basically, she's murdered, as well as someone else really close to her and very pivotal to her life. And the only person that is there that can say anything about it is played by Billy Howie's, the Lafferty, the youngest Lafferty's son, Alan. And from that point, you know, it's kind of like, you think it's a normal run-of-the-mill like detective story, but you can tell very early on, because it shows in Andrew Garfield's life that he very much so is very religious. He's a man of God. He's Mormon. His family is devout, and he loves his daughters. He loves his wife. And when he sees this heinous crime, like, his reaction to what's going on is the effect of everything that's happening. You know, from the very moment that he sees what's going on and the realization of who's outside and blood on him, that this is going to be something that's very personal, and he may be compromised because of not only his beliefs, but how connected he is with the individuals involved in this, down to everybody that's connected. And so what do I think about the series so far? This is my overview / non-spoiler review of the first 2 episodes. I think it's actually really good. I think the production of it is great. Like, the camera work, the edge to it, the lighting, the focus on emotion, which, I mean, honestly, in the first episode, I was just like looking at Andrew. I was like, he's not overacting. He's just so good. Like, he conveyed every single semblance of emotion. Like, matter of fact, and this is probably one of the first movies I've seen in a long time. And I'm like, I cannot picture him as a young man at all. Like, he is very seasoned, and he is very much so a father. He's very much so connected to this. He's just devoted himself. Like, you can tell it all over his demeanor and the way that they, his mannerisms, everything about him, it seems like is captured very specifically, down to certain, like, ticks of what he does. Like, he doesn't curse. Like, he doesn't try to eat any snacks. Like, it's very intentional. So I think a lot of the camera work and the focus is very specific. But one of the things I also love about the narrative and the way that they also film stuff is, again, they focus in on a lot of the emotions. So when you have, you know, the interrogation for Alan or Lafferty, the youngest Lafferty, when they are starting to interrogate him, and like, oh my gosh, and Billy, he is pouring emotion. But you don't know whose story to believe or perceive, because they also do something very fascinating with Andrew Garfield's Pyrie, where they keep going back and forth with different flashbacks and semblances of connections that he had with not only his faith, but like the history of his faith, the story of his faith, because the youngest Lafferty, he starts to go over certain things about why he believes what he believes and why he's disconnected in the way he believes. And it starts to go down this very interesting rabbit hole that you don't know who is lying. You don't know who's lying to themselves, and you don't know who's misguided and really just truly deciding to lie actively. Billy, I think one thing about Billy's performance to me is that I believe everything that he's giving me, but I don't know what he truly believes is real. And I think that's such a fascinating thing, because you have a slew of actors in it. You got Sam Worthington, Andrew Garfield, Christopher, I never get his last name right. Hey Bordeaux, Wyatt Russell. Like, there's a huge number of great actors in this. And like, for some reason, Billy just shines, man. Like, and it's like, you can tell like he's a young father. You can tell like he's grounded somewhere, but then there's a lot of trauma there that's putting him in this perpetual state that he can't get out of, and he is just submitting to. And even when you go into the second episode, when you start to unravel certain underworkings of his family and his lineage and his other brothers and their wives, like, it starts to really hit home as to how good this could really be. The only thing that kind of sets this thing back for me is the fact that it's a miniseries. So meaning that each episode feels like a little mini movie. Not as far as their length, but there's like, okay, it concludes this chapter. This concludes, and I think that Mayor of Downtown, or Mayor of Easttown, I'm sorry. That show led me to believe that shows like that were possible and also could be really evocative and very good. I think this one is trying to do that in that same vein, but I feel like there's so much content here. And it's not just that everybody has a central narrative focus, but there's a lot of history. And because when you start going to a little bit of bleeds of history and what's going on and how their interaction with being who they are, you know, I think that, and I know I'm being very vague, trying to be careful. That leads me to believe, like, man, this may need to be a couple more seasons, but we'll see. I mean, I've only seen the first 2 episodes. This is my overview of the first 2 episodes. I think it's very good. I think that there's certain moments that it kind of drags a little bit, certain moments it kind of feels a little repetitive. There are some very stupid moments that kind of happen, but I think it's also dumbed down to, you know, this isn't like a hot shot or anything. Like, some of these cops, when they see the first murder, like, they are compromised. Like, they don't know how to deal with it. And of course, you know, Andrew Garfield's character, Pyrie, is emotionally compromised, absolutely, because he's sitting there trying to still schedule stuff with his daughters and his wife, and he doesn't know how to process any of this outside of his faith. And when it comes to his faith, like, this is making him consciously feel convicted, and it's messing him up emotionally inside. And I think Andrew is conveying that in the utmost. This takes place in Salt Lake City, and I think it's 1984 is when it's taking place. I'd rest this at an 8 to an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's definitely worth your time in watching. I don't know where it's really going. I think by the second episode, it starts to really ramp up to the point that I'm like, now I need to get more. So I think that from a first 2 episode standpoint, I think it's definitely going to be worth your time. So definitely go and check it out. I highly recommend you take your time through each episode. Don't just hurry up and binge. Like, allow yourself to kind of process what you just saw. This is going to be debuting on April the 28th. And I will leave all the description information where you can find it, streamed at, and where it's going to be located. I'll talk to you guys soon. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell button. Keep it locked. JVS, we ain't gonna stop. Peace, guys.
Filing out the top